Hi. So with that, I want to welcome back a good friend of our meeting series, Steve Mahaley. He's been a frequent speaker here in the past from Duke Corporate Education, who's here to give a live demo of a new innovative leadership app and talk about some other programs that they get going at Duke Corporate Education. Steve has been one of the pioneers in 3D virtual worlds, but has been most busy, it seems, with mobile apps recently. So curious to hear what you have for us, Steve. So, and I understand you have a colleague here, Bill, as well. I see some new people joining us. So if you want to text your introductions here, if you just joined, hit T and just introduce who you are. That'd be great. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks so much for joining us. So feel free to download the app while we talk here. All right, Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Oh, good. So sorry, folks. I don't know what happened.
No problem.
But, you know, I was all excited to tell you about the weather here in Durham, North Carolina. We were hearing, I think it was from Susan, was it Susan? About the weather in Washington, D.C. I think that we did a little bit of text chat earlier about where you all are from. I would love to see that. I'm just going to type in a text. I'm in Durham, North Carolina, USA. Would just love to see where everybody's dialed in from today. And thanks for coming and joining. And thank you, Anders, for the introduction earlier. Yep, it's good to be back with you guys. Chandler, Arizona, excellent. And we are having some unseasonably warm weather here in Durham and all along the East Coast. But brace yourselves, friends. It's going to get really cold this weekend, I understand. Charlotte, excellent. The Queen City. So let's get started. Anders, can we take the next slide, please?
Sure.
So what I'm going to talk about is really just two things, and we're going to do a little live experiment with this Insight Tracker app. But I want to just give you a little bit about Duke Corporate Education as a background really quickly. For those of you who don't know us, we're a provider of learning and development services for organizations around the world. And we're just about 13 years old now, just over 13 in fact. We're a weird blend of business and university folks. We sit outside of Duke University, but are a nonprofit owned by Duke University. So that's kind of where we came from. Focus is on customized corporate education. We don't do any kind of degrees or anything like that. So just to make that clear, we're all about whatever the client's issues are. Anders, let's go to the next one. Just a visual of where we are in the world. Those are our offices. Carlsbad, California, left to right, Durham, North Carolina, London, Johannesburg, South. Ooh, loud. Mike, I think you're feedback. Walk over here. Sorry, I was getting some feedback over there. London and Johannesburg, India at Ahmedabad, and we just opened an office in Singapore. Why all of these offices? Well, let me tell you about that. Anders, can we see the next slide, please? The reason we have all those offices is to be close to the clients. And so you'll see on this slide a snapshot of places we have been, countries we have been in the world, to do some kind of educational intervention. Obviously, this is not including the virtual delivery of things, because that would pretty much cover, I think, almost every nation. But these are places we have been on the ground. And that's where our clients are. That's where we go to do the educational interventions that we design for them. Next slide, please, Anders. Folks, just text in any questions you have along the way. I'll be watching that as well. So here's a snapshot just to give you a sense of the kind of industries that we've worked with, that we do work with. That's not all of them, but just to give you an idea of the range of clients. These are people in certainly different geographies of the world, different industries, different levels of managers and leaders. We typically do work with senior level leaders down to new managers. That's kind of our populations of people that we work with. The scope of those engagements can range from, like, I don't know, as small as 15 people all the way to 1,500 or more. So again, any questions, just pop them in the chat. I just want to to let you know who we are, and then that will give you an idea of why we did this Insight Tracker thing. So let's get to some learning stuff. Anders, next slide, please. So this is a framework that we use here at Dec5 when amongst ourselves, but also certainly with our clients, to help think about how do you connect a learning process to an actual business need and the leadership needs that are connected to that business need. And we frame it simply as these 3 E's of engage, explore, and embed. Now, there's some sample activities under each one of these boxes, and my proposition here is that this isn't anything really new. Anyone who's been in instructional design or an education designer for a while will recognize these things, but this may be helpful as we think about the application of mobile applications through that band of learning experiences, from motivating learning to providing some way for people to apply things and get some practice and some feedback, and then of course the transfer to the workplace with tools and things that they're doing at work to apply the learning that they've engaged in. So again, I don't think this is anything new to anyone here in the learning field. I just wanted to share with you, this is the actual slide that we use with our clients when we're talking about how we want to approach the design of a learning intervention. My contention is that none of this can happen in a classroom, nor should it. Learning is something that needs to take place over time. We have to understand more about our context. We have to give people a chance to really practice things and get some meaningful feedback in that context of practice. And then we have to enable them in some way with process, people, content, whatever it happens to be, to make sure that things land back at work and we have the impact that we are seeking. All right, nothing new there, folks. Let's carry on. Typical learner needs, Anders, on the next slide, and I promise we'll get to the fun experiment here in just a second. But these are the kinds of things our clients are coming to us with now. And I'll say more about these a little bit later in the program today, but globalization is certainly one of them, with companies recognizing the interdependence that they experience with other industries and other adjacent industries to them and their customer bases and supply chains and everything else. And so the implication here is that we want to allow those, and our clients are more global certainly, and so they're spread all over the world, so we want to provide them a way to access content and expertise anytime, anywhere. Yeah, Karen, I don't know. Anders, is there anything that Karen needs to do to see the slides? Karen, we're looking up at the main screen here. I'm going to stand right in front of it. Yeah. Karen, is that helpful? Just let us know. Second bucket of things here, complexity. So things are just, this interdependency that I mentioned earlier is creating quite a complex environment for our clients and the individuals and the leaders that we're trying to help. And so we need them to be able to engage with experienced peers of theirs inside and outside the organization. And we want them to be able to document activities for others who follow. And so these are some of the learning things that come out of these needs that our clients are feeling, or these realities that our clients are feeling. And certainly innovation is a big piece of this too. Sharing insights and experience as you experience them and personalizing the learning focus. So these elements drove us to create something called the Insight Tracker. Now, let me whip around here. Anders, can you show us the next slide, please? Again, Karen, I hope that you're seeing what you need to see up here. Folks, do let me know if you have any issues in text. My audio failed earlier, and if it does again, I want to be able to read that it's not happening.
Yeah, no, we hear you well, and I think everyone sees the slides.
Good. Folks, is the pace okay? I sometimes go a little fast, but I kind of want to get to the hands-on stuff. Pace all right? Okay, I'm going to assume so, unless you come over here and kick me or something. So here's the Insight Tracker. And Bill, thank you for putting the URLs in the text chat. Folks, if you've got a mobile device with you, Android-based or iOS-based, go get it. It's free. Now, the purpose of this insight tracker is to provide this focused and secure mobile forum for sharing insights. So one of the big things that we've all discovered as educators is that the knowledge that we bring as experts is only half the story, and sometimes it's even less than that. What's really important, especially for leaders and senior managers of organizations, is to find a way to get to elicit the insights and the intelligence and the wisdom that they have and bring that into the learning context. And so this insight tracker is simply designed to provide each individual a way to go out in their real world and find something that's representative of a particular challenge, take a snapshot, upload it, make a comment, and share that with others. And we think this is, it's a very simple idea. It's not unlike Instagram, but it is a secure space. So this is where the security becomes important, because as you know, many of our corporate clients will demand that it's something that's not shareable across people outside the organization and that sort of thing. Let's see, Diane Doherty, Brian Noltz, it's for the managing director meeting. Okay.
Oh, sorry, that was something else.
Yes, that's not for me. Sorry, read that. Those URLs are there. If you're busy multitasking, I hope that's weird for someone to say. I hope you're multitasking and downloading that app. On the screen, if you take a peek here, you'll see that there's the basic structure, which is you access a challenge, you add your insights, and then you can see that updated view of that challenge and the insights from everyone else who has access to that particular challenge. So that's the structure. On the back end, what we do is we set up the server to allow some number of people to access it. Those people are identified, and so the security is in part there. Those people then can just freely download the app, and we set a particular challenge to that particular group. And so the rest of the world can download the app, but they won't see the challenges that they don't have access to. So that's how this works. So Bill's asking, if you are successful in downloading the app, I know Anders has been, then go ahead and if you want to participate in a quick live action demo of this thing, it's always nerve-wracking when you do these things live, but what the heck. Then go ahead and type in your email address. And what Bill is going to do is he's going to add you to a challenge, 2 challenges in fact, that we have set up for today's program with Train for Success. So I do hope that I see some email addresses popping in there. Otherwise, this is going to be extremely boring. So, Anders, can we see the next slide, please? While we're waiting for volunteers here, thank you, Ashima. All right, round of applause for Ashima, our first volunteer. There are some screenshots of what the app looks like from the iOS version. Note that the Android version does look a little bit different, so the functionality is all the same, but the kind of the navigation and whatnot is a little bit different. Top left-hand side, you'll see that you have, people have access to groups. So when you log in and we get you, thank you, gosh, Brian, Nora, Mike, Stylianos, Whitney, excellent. We're going to have a great crowd for testing here. Bill's busy. He's probably saying mean things about me right now because we got a lot of good volunteers. So he's entering all of you guys into the database, and he'll let us know in a few minutes when it's ready to roll and you can log in. But anyway, so the screen that you see here, you see that you can have membership to groups. Inside of those groups, you can have a number of challenges. So you'll see that second image in the middle of the screen, select a challenge. You click on the challenge, you just touch it, and then you're into the challenge, and you can see all the insights. And in the top right-hand corner of the screen on the iOS version, you can just add an insight to that particular challenge, or you can open an insight and add your own comments. And so that's the insight details image that's on the far right. That's when you add an insight. That's what it looks like. Thanks. Bill has told us in text that Ashima is in. Congratulations. And everyone's password is going to be the word insights, all lowercase. insights will be your password. Now, Anders, let's go to the next slide, please. Hope everyone's having fun so far. Yeah, we need the download link again. Can't see it in chat history. So there's a download link up on the screen here if you feel like typing that whole thing in. But it'd be better if we just pop there it is. There's Google Play in chat and iTunes. Just go to iTunes and look.
And you guys know to hit letter T on the keyboard to get the text box to stay up and click on the link there.
So here's what we're doing. We're going to get the app. We're chatting in your name and your email address. And it will be nice since we see your name. That's cool. We've got that in chat. Your password's going to be Insights. We're giving ourselves a minute to get it all in place. And then Bill will let us know when we're ready to rock and roll. For those of you, Ashima's probably already kind of poking around in this thing. And Anders, I've already got the app up on my, what my wife would say, ancient iPhone 4. That's right, Shutter collectively, that I have an old iPhone, way back, version 4. So I'm seeing the Train for Success group. I can view the challenges inside of there, and there are 2 challenges. All right, so let's see how everybody's doing. Okay, so now we're in kind of a holding pattern. Make sure all the emails are in. Folks, if you could chat here, or just let me know, just voice is fine. Let me know that you've got into the app. Now the challenges are today, Sarah, and Stylianos, the challenges are just sort of fun for us to do. You can imagine, in the context of our leadership development programs, what we're looking for are those personal moments of insight from a leader around a topic that is the area of focus for educational intervention. So, for example, it could be something around markets and innovation markets. Might, for example, ask our participants to go out into their local community, take a photograph of something that inspired them in some way to think about new markets differently. It could be an actual photograph of a new store. It could be some photograph of an interaction that they've seen. It could be something, physical and tangible. It could be just about anything. The point is that those leaders then can upload them just as you might be doing now, their challenges, and then all the other leaders can see them as well, and they can comment on each other's contribution. That's kind of the most important piece of this, is for people to be able to see each other's insights and to add their own commentary to those. So you'll see that meaning and the transfer of insights and ideas happens all through the app, and it's captured there and stored there and can continue to grow over time. All right, so Susan, thanks. Brian says he's not enrolled in any groups. Let's give it a second. Bill, maybe we're adding you in right now. Now I'm going to refresh my screen here. I've got 2 challenges. One is called My Workspace, and one is called A Great Leader. Mike, you're having login troubles? Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Bill is fixing the groups thing, so just a second. We typically, by the way, don't do this live. So, of course, we would have set all this stuff up. We would have gotten our participant email addresses and names and everything, and kind of sucked them up into the system, and then had a launch. But so Okay, Nora, we're going to check it out for you. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, your username, Susan, should be your email address, and then your password should be the word insights. And I think, Susan, you did add your email address in here. Hey, Brian. Brian, are you able to see the challenges? You should see 2 of them. Whitney, sorry. Anders, how's it going for you?
I'm ashamed to say I'm still downloading the operating system. I think I'm just on here. I was on the old one.
Great. Okay, Brian's in. So good. Okay, Walter, keep trying here, man. Unable to log in. So it should be your email address that you put into text chat, and the password is insights. So Brian, you've got the 2 challenges in front of you: Workspace and Great Leader. I'll describe it to those who are just listening today. The Workspace challenge is simply this: take a picture of your desk. And there are 2 questions that are appended to that challenge. What does your workspace look like, and what does it say about you? So once you'll see mine in there, and you'll see Bill's desk in there, and you can, once that photo is uploaded, you can then comment on them. So I'm going to comment on Bill's picture here. And we'll give this, folks, we're going to give this about, maybe 10 minutes more, and then I have one other topic I want to share with you today. Brian and Susan are complete. Good.
Steve, hi, this is Ashima.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, Steve, that I'll just continue entering the people, and as you proceed with the rest of your talk,
Okay.
I'll just put little notes as I get various individuals. I was getting the emails in, and I forgot the step of adding the particular people. So I've put 5 people in so far, but I'll just continue working on that.
Good. Yeah, of course. Great. Thanks, Bill. So yeah, we'll pause on that one. Let people upload their stuff, and we'll come back to it. So I'm going to segue to a slightly different topic while that's happening. Anders, can I see the next slide, please? So beyond apps, I think there's a bigger thing that's happening over here at Duke CE with regard to the insights, if you will, that we've gotten from our clients. And last year, and I think this has implications for all of us who are educators or trainers in the business world, we did a CEO study back in 2012, way back last year. And the output of that CEO study, where we interviewed 38 CEOs around the world, different industries, different cultures, and we asked them questions related to what do they see as challenges that they are facing, that they themselves are facing as CEOs. What's new? What's different? What needs to be different within their organizations? And we got some really interesting data out of that. The data, as we compiled it and analyzed it, fell into insights about 2 great big challenges. They're represented on the screen. On the left hand, basically the notion is that challenges that CEOs are facing, and I'm emphasizing that because this is about the people who run these giant companies, that the challenges that they are facing are less foreseeable. It used to be 5-10 years ago that they could see market shifts coming, they could see changes in innovations happening, they could see customer populations in a relatively predictable way. They could see their own staffing of their organization in a fairly predictable way, and so on. But that is no longer the case. There are way too many challenges that are coming at them, and they cannot foresee them. No amount or very few reports from analysts and consultants are helping them really get their arms around what's coming and what they should be preparing for. And that's tightly linked to the second insight, which was that the knowledge sources that they had relied upon in the past, it could be educators, it could be books, it could be courses they took, it could be their degrees, it could be their leadership team themselves, it could be external people. Whatever it is, that those knowledge sources are not as reliable as they once were, simply because the nature of the challenges are different. So, looks like Susan and other people are enrolled. Good. So these two things came out of the CEO study, and that we took that information to an event that we run every year with Chief Learning Officers, which is our CLO Roundtable. In our CLO Roundtable, we floated the idea of the following slide with them. And there's that, is this what you're seeing as Chief Learning Officers? They all said yes. And they said, Dec5, what are you going to do about it? That was last year. So we took it upon ourselves to really go back to the drawing board and say, what kind of learning experience is required for leaders who live in a world that's constantly changing and where the knowledge sources that they've had in the past aren't reliable? And so we've come up with this concept of Dec5's Quest, and it's actually more than a concept now, because what you see on the screen was the invitation to this year's CLO Roundtable that just happened last month. Brought 25 CLOs from around the world together. We ran them through a prototype of what we're calling Dec5's Quest, and they all said, yes, this is the thing that we need to do. Now, Dec5's Quest, as it says on the screen, is a virtual and physical learning environment that's really designed to provide leaders a chance to practice core abilities so that they can be comfortable in unfamiliar contexts over and over again. So let me just pause on that one. It's not about teaching a set of content. It's not, because the challenges keep changing, right? And it's not about establishing one set of processes or one particular network of people. This is a little bit different than that, in that it's really about an individual and helping her or him construct their own process for being comfortable and adaptive in unfamiliar contexts as they keep coming at them. So, what we did, and I'll just be descriptive about this right now because it's not constructed completely, is we've embarked on creating something called Dec5's Quest. Dec5's Quest is a virtual and physical set of experiences. Anders, can we see the next slide, please? Based to some extent on the work of John Seeley Brown, which you have seen on this slide. He actually came to our CLO Roundtable last month and gave a very compelling talk about how learning needs to change for leaders, and the idea of a practice field where leaders can be put in unfamiliar context and then given chances to operate within those with immediate, meaningful feedback is core to this design. What you see on the screen now is a demo screenshot. It's actually from a live site, and this is our alpha site for Dec5's Quest. And all I'm showing you here is just the entering screen. The idea is that this is something new. It feels unfamiliar from the get-go. It's constructed, the online space is constructed with a lot of serious gaming components in it. You'll notice that what you see on the screen does feel a little bit different than your normal, say, program website, as it is intended to. If you were to watch that opening video there, it would not be of a talking head telling you something. It would be a much more compelling message and format for delivery of that. Inside of this space are a set of levels of challenges supported by tutorials and help areas and sages who can help you wrestle with the 3 core abilities that are going to enable you to be comfortable and effective in the unfamiliar context. And so that's what we're working on now, and we're really excited about it. And Anders, I hope that perhaps in, I don't know, maybe 8 months' time, we'll be able to come back here and tell you a lot more with photos of the actual delivery of some of this, because we're really excited about that. And it's an unusual step for Duke CE in that we are working with some partners outside of Duke CE to make this thing happen, notably business anthropologists, FBI negotiation specialists, ex-Navy SEALs. So we've got quite an interesting collection of people helping us design the entire experience of Duke CE's Quest. And again, we're hoping to launch the first round of this in June of this coming year. So that was my my second piece of sharing that I wanted to do today. I'm happy to take any questions that you have on that if you want to text them in or just talk them through. And in the meantime, we can also check and see how the insights are coming on Insight Tracker. All right, I'm looking at my group. Oh, I've got some insights in here. I hope you all are, several of you have logged in, I believe. Let's see, my Workspace now has 5 insights in it. Mike, let's see, Buran, working from home today. So I get to see, for those who don't have the tracker installed, I'm actually looking at a photograph of Buran's contribution where he's actually got a screen. He took a photo of his laptop showing the presentation file that I was sharing. So I'm going to write a little comment here. So I'm commenting on Buran's insight here.
Should you be able to see your own as well?
You should be able to. And you might have to scroll to the right because they stack them in order of recency. So you might have to, who was that speaking, please?
This is Susan.
Hey, Susan. Yours might be over to the right. Let me see. I see Laura, I see Mike, Buran, Ashima, Steve, and Bill insights in here under the first challenge. Oh, yeah, ISTJ. Interesting. Nice. I was just looking at Laura's. And Mike, take a peek at yours here. So you get the notion. I mean, oh wow. Okay, so Mike, I'm incredibly jealous. I don't know where this is, but it's beautiful. Deck chairs and looks like a lake in front of him. So I want to work where he's working. But you'll see mine too for those that have looked at my my contribution on this particular challenge. My desk is riddled with stuff. And who is the intended audience? I'll come to that question, Karen, in just a second. But yeah, my desk is riddled with stuff, including a sword and a vuvuzela. I'll tell you about that later. Good. So, Karen, to your question, intended audience for Duke CE's Quest is senior leaders, probably 1 or 2 levels below C-suite. So we're thinking of this as the place where organizations will select one or a small group of people that they may view as high potentials who are destined for seats in the executive committee level. And they want to give them that opportunity to really get out there and hone their skills at being comfortable in unfamiliar contexts. Now, a little bit more about that. So the structure of Quest will take players through a virtual preparation serious gaming space that gets them ready for their first quest. There are 3 in all. Walter, we're going to solve your problem there too, by the way. 3 quests in all. The first quest is something that Duke CE and our partners have constructed. So it's artificial in the sense of it's our scenario, it's our chosen environment, and it's our chosen people and situation and scenario, as I said. And so we're going to take all of the leaders into this place of our construction. And that's the first quest. And that lasts for 4 days, actually, of interaction with people and in an unfamiliar context. I'll tell you just how unfamiliar it is. We've actually invented a new country. We have secured a space that is basically a few city blocks. I'm not going to tell you much more about it because it's really in the middle of being created right now. But we've secured a place that's a few city blocks in a location in the United States. We take these people there. It becomes Borussia, which is the name of our invented country. With our help of our game designers, we're creating some alternate reality gaming components around this, in which you could actually Google Borussia if you were so inclined. And so we're creating a reality, if you will, in which these players, as we call them, will have to wrestle with an unfamiliar context and get feedback from their coaches. And we're even calling the coaches personal trainers. And I could say more about that, but don't really have the time. So the first quest happens, then that levels them up for the second quest. But they have to go back into the gaming, the virtual space, to take on the next set of challenges, next set of tutorials and content and interactions there that are both with other people but also with content itself and with challenges where they have to go out and do something not unlike what we're talking about with Insight Tracker. And then get themselves ready for Quest 2, which will be of our organization. We will organize it. But it's not going to be an artificial context. It's going to be a real context with real people in what for many will be an unfamiliar environment. So think an emerging market somewhere. So the players then all go to this emerging market. We have an array of real organizations, individuals, people of various sorts that they can choose to interact with. They have a goal, they have a mission, they have a quest, but they have real people. And the interactions with those people have real consequences. So we're gradually making the shift from artificial immersion to an in-market, real experience. And none of this means anything until they get to Quest 3. And Quest 3, so once they level up out of Quest 2, they will go to Quest 3. And that is actually their own personal business quest. And so all the way back at the beginning of the whole process, they would have declared a personal business quest for themselves. If they're a small team, the team would have one. And it's throughout the entire experience. They're getting coaching and application of what they're learning through the various quests in the online gaming space to their personal business quest. And so that third level quest is something bold and audacious for the individual and for their organizations. And that needs to be declared up front. And it becomes the red thread that pulls everything through. And at the end, the players, hopefully successful with their third quest, all then are brought into what in some contexts would be called a guild, but we're calling it the Quest Network. And so they're effectively graduates of the process and can become resources for the next set of players. So that's where we're headed with that one. Questions?
Brian is asking, is the Insight Tracker app something that can be customized and used by other organizations?
Great question, Brian. The way that we do it now is it's the Dec5 app, and we will roll it out when we're rolling it out in our programs specific to clients. And so when the design expresses the right need, then we can apply the Insight Tracker app to that need for that particular client. We don't hand them the Insight Tracker app with all the databases and everything that go with it. We'd rather just let them download the app for free, but they can't really use it for anything until we set up a workshop for them, or a group for them rather, and then apply the appropriate challenges. So we still retain that level of control. Does that make sense?
Sure. Susan asked earlier here, do you find your executive students really have time for all this? Are they grumpy about being there?
So if you're talking about the Insight Tracker app, yes, they have time for it. It's once you get it going and running, and it's just a photograph and a comment. That's pretty quick. Now, if you're talking about Dec5's Quest, we are going to find out. So our goal is to launch this in June of this coming year. But what we have heard, what we heard from the CEOs and then what we heard from the CLOs just last month was, yes, that they think that this combination of things will be have certainly the right level of business relevance with personal business, but also the right combination of online and in-place events that these people will be making time for.
So, Steve, you talked about going out in the real world. Are you giving up on virtual worlds?
No, my friend. So there's a longer-term view, which is that spaces like this can play and should play a role in opening up aspects of Dec5's Quest to a much larger and a larger scaled audience. That was actually in our blueprint for all of this work, Anders. It was one of the first things that was laid down as a foundational element, was that we're going to build this towards some kind of scaled offering. We don't know what it looks like yet, but I'm a big fan of what can be done in these 3D spaces that you cannot do in any other space. I want to just be clear about that. I think that 3D spaces offer us opportunities as education designers that just don't exist elsewhere through other technologies or other real world spaces. So stay tuned. See.
So how much have you been able to test out the Insight Tracker? Have you actually run a session with it yet, or?
We have run some internal sessions with it. We are in this, relatively new, so we're hoping to include it in something very soon. Yep. Oh, good. I'm sorry, I was a little distracted because I was just looking at the new insights that were just posted here.
Yeah, I finally got in and took a picture of my desk. It works beautifully, very easy to use.
Look at you. You must be a fan of sailing.
Yeah, I am. Growing up in Stockholm, that's
fantastic. Well, good. So, I again, folks, I'm our goal here is just to share, and I hope that this has been somewhat useful for you as you think about your own work and what you're doing with your people, or depending on your business, what you might be doing for your customers. So I'm happy to take more questions, either about Insight Tracker or about Dec5's Quest. I'm going to go look at the second chapter.
Yes, Susan had a question here about the online gaming. Is serious learning appropriate for executives? She asks.
Yeah. Susan, my view on that is that, it's a good one. The term serious gaming is difficult, isn't it? Because I think that a good game is something that's intrinsically motivating and fun. You feel like it's fun, and if we've all read a bunch of the things that come out of the game theorists and whatnot, that fun isn't all smiling and laughing. Fun can be something that's really, really difficult to solve. And the fun comes through the level of challenge that's there. So I think that I think that serious gaming absolutely has a home with these with the senior level audiences, in part because a good game is a place where you have degrees of freedom of choice. You have immediate feedback and consequences for the actions that you take. You have levels of challenge that are just beyond your reach, but you have been prepared for along the way. You have supporting mechanisms, whether those are people, other players, or whether those are sages or whatnot in the gaming context. You have the sense of community of other players. You have the scoring mechanisms as part of the feedback process and the sort of the the image, the data that you have of your progress. I think all of those things make a lot of sense for this level. Now, I don't think it'll be for everyone, certainly. I think that we'll have, people who are, let's say, it might be too much of a stretch. But we are, so far, the feedback that we have gotten from senior level people, let me be clear about that, is that the CLOs who are with us, and John Seeley Brown himself, by the way, all gave us very positive feedback on what we have laid out. So I think that we're onto something, and I think that if we are smart in our design and don't turn it into either, something that looks too hokey or too fantastic, we're not creating World of Warcraft, and we're not creating something violent like Call of Duty. We're creating something that has storyline to it, has characters in it, it has levels in it, it has imagery, and it has feedback mechanisms and points and scoring and that sort of thing, and options to connect with other players, to collaborate or not. So all that's built into it. Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I missed the point, Susan. I'm sorry, I went on a little rant there. Not gaming, but games. See if I can scroll up here.
So do you have a Google Glass version of the Insight Tracker in the works?
No. I haven't done anything with Google Glass yet. No.
And my thought is that executives are hard to get to train. They believe they know what they need to know and trying to get them to engage. And so, getting them there and then having the appropriate scenarios and obviously at the level that they need to be engaged in is absolutely essential. And so I was just curious, since your focus is on training executives,
yep,
you have to put so much emphasis on that. For example, if we're doing a cyber emergency, we have a lot of technical people, and the technical people come and they're excited and they're happy and they're all engaged in it. And then you've got the executive who then may have to make an executive decision. For example, do we pull off from the internet, or do we, what else are we going to do? Trying to get them to engage with us is not as easy. And so that was where I was going with it. And maybe it's because your folks are there and they're already set aside, and you know that you don't have those issues.
Yeah. No, I think it's Susan. You're right on. I mean, I think that there's a fine balance, isn't there, between what is the stuff that has to be done online, and does it feel like stuff that I have to do online, or does it feel like something I really want to do? That's where the design magic needs to happen. And we're in fact, we had a meeting earlier today, just before this, with our platform team about the design of striking the right balance between simplicity of interface, but compelling and interesting both information from knowledgeable experts, but the actual interaction with the space itself. So we're thinking about the sort of visual metaphor of what's the environment like. We're thinking about what is the display of progress through the environment. We're thinking about what is the right display of compelling video content with things for them to do, and how that all connects to the conversation the players are going to be having virtually with their personal trainer coach. So all of this interacts with itself. All these parts interact with each other. So we're not just, sending them a URL and saying good luck. It's actually much more connected to a live conversation with trainers and an expectation that you can't get to the next level of information without completed this. And it doesn't feel like a skill soft set, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like I've got to click through a bunch of stuff and say complete. It's actually more immersive. For example, there's an online set of things we call challenges. So while there are things that people are learning in terms of conceptual and examples of how those concepts play themselves out in companies, they actually have to go into a challenge before they can do one. The challenge is something they have to go out go out into the world and take some data, interview some people, collect that stuff, drive their insights, have a conversation with the person, and post it all. And so there's a real, let's say it's really tightly integrated. What's going on online with their admission into the various quests is very tightly integrated. So I think that it's an ongoing conversation, and I think we're on a good path with it right now.
So, final question here from Ashima. Playing to some of Susan's comments and questions, how much time and effort do you spend on potential customer education and what methods have worked? So I guess you're getting at how much do you customize the program for clients and how much do you have a sort of set curriculum for?
That's a great question, Ashima. I mean, there's no set curriculum that we have for anything. Now, that said, we all know that companies and managers at different levels struggle with some of the same things. So we might look at a manager transition. There's a set of things that always go. It seems to always go with the person who is moving from a level of functional expertise to a level of needing to manage people across the country. And so there's a lot of things that we typically would bring into that particular design party. But when it comes down to what the client experience is, it's always something that's customized. So we don't have anything sitting on the shelf per se that we then just kind of, make accessible to. So I hope that answers.
Right. Actually, my question is related more to convincing people about using the application. So how much effort does it actually take to sort of educate them about what the app does, what the benefits are going to be, what the ROI is? How easy or difficult is that process?
Yeah, good question. I don't know about Big C's Quest because we're too early in the game yet, but we will be doing some significant user testing to just make sure that people aren't presented with too much of a technical hurdle to get in. And then, as far as things like Insight Tracker, what we proposed is that we always start with something simple, like what we've done today. It was simple. I mean, it took us a while to get everyone lined up, but starting with something simple, an easy question for people to answer is the way in there, and then you follow that with the more meaningful and more difficult question for them to answer. So. And I think that you might agree that the interface itself of Insight Tracker is very simple. And so we try to keep those things very simple and easy for people to navigate and just make it really easy for them to contribute their bits.
Yeah, I'm loving this approach. I get so many requests from clients who said, "Oh, we need mobile app," and then when you start talking to them, their idea of a mobile app is to do an e-learning course on your phone and do quizzes, and it's just such an anal approach. And it's the mistake we always make with new technology. We just shovel over what we've already done into the new technology. And you've taken the approach of looking at what works in social media and how it can be applied for learning and development, and it's really brilliant. So thank you so much, Steve. I know we're at the top of the hour here, but that was really cool to be able to actually see it in action too. So really appreciate your insights and the creative work, and love to have you back in 8 months or so when you rolled out this program to see some feedback from it.
And I want to thank all the folks here too. Anders, if you could show the last slide, my contact information is there. I want to give a shout to Bill Lottie, who's been working feverishly in the background to get everyone's, accounts into the app today. Thanks, Bill, for your work. And if you have any questions at all that we talked about today, don't hesitate to send me an email, or we'll set up a Skype or whatever you want to do. Thanks again for showing up, folks. You guys have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you have.